want you to really listen to what Rafiat has to say. So welcome, Rafiat.
Thank you, Debbie. No pressure. She's already heard the talk. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be in this space with you all. Like Debbie said, I'm Rafiat Adekunle. I'm also a wife and a mom of two adult children. Now, my professional background is medical. I took early voluntary retirement as a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist and never really looked back. Now, as we are celebrating International Women's Day this week, collaboration feels even more powerful because progress has never been made in isolation. And collaboration generally it sounds exciting. But before I even go into that, you probably have heard the saying, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. That's all about collaboration. And collaboration always sounds exciting until it requires vulnerability because it means being seen. It means risking rejection. It also means admitting you don't have it all covered. So today, and if you're a business owner or a team leader in your organization, which I suspect most of you are, and especially if you've in your organization or your business, you've built something independently, collaboration can feel like exposure. So today, I'm not talking about strategy. I want to talk about our internal posture because how you see yourself determines how you show up in collaboration. So I'm going to talk really, like Debbie said, about confidence and collaboration. I'm going to share a few of the barriers we could face, and I'm going to give you 3 very powerful internal shifts if you choose to make them that will propel you confidently into that conversation. So the barriers to collaboration really sounds like fear. It sounds more like, oh, it's not the right time, or I need to tweak my processes or whatever it is first. Or, oh, actually, they're light years ahead of me already. Or it is I'll reach out when I'm fully ready. So let's have a quick temperature check in the room, all right? Could you type into the chat, me, if you've ever held back from reaching out for an opportunity because you did not feel fully ready? Just go on and type me. Me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now that is not a capability issue. That is a confidence dialogue or narrative, right? We don't usually lack confidence, but what we're doing is we are wasting time negotiating with our internal stories. And I have done the same. So I remember a time in my journey when I had to decide whether I was going to stay quiet or I was going to step forward. And the context to that is this. I had come to the United Kingdom as a professional immigrant by choice. I had climbed up the ladder to becoming a consultant and a leader of a specialty service. I had been courageous to step and change my profession into coaching. I had trained to be a coach. I had worked with many women. I knew the transformation was real. I had the evidence. But to go out publicly and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, it was a little exposing. But one thing I understood and I was clear about was I didn't have a capability issue. I had evidence for that. What I was doing was negotiating with my own narrative, the internal voices in my head. And oh boy, it was loud. It's are you good enough? Who are you to ask or charge at this level? Can you actually build this as a business? The noise was very loud. But when I reconnected with why what I do was so important to me, I understood that staying quiet was no longer an option. When my why was louder, more powerful, more compelling than the noise and my doubts, I made a decision. I was going to go public on my 60th birthday. That was the decision. And to ensure I did that, I recruited the help of my support network, i.e. my husband and my 2 adult children. Why? Because they will know when I'm faltering and doubting to encourage me, but they will also make me accountable. So on my 60th birthday, and it took some doing of that, I recorded a video and went public. I re-recorded that video more times than I really like to confess, but eventually I pressed post and something shifted. The fear was still there, but my confidence grew because I had moved. And that's when I learned that confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes because of it. And collaboration requires, most of the times, that same courage. So, if you're thinking of embarking on collaboration, I want to share with you 3 powerful shifts. If you make them, will change the game for you. The first one is reconnect. Before you reach out, reconnect with yourself. Who are you and what do you bring? What is it? What is that problem that you solve so well? Where are you already creating impact? And what value do you consistently add? Confidence increases or is built with remembered evidence. So remember. Shift number 2, reframe. If, or should I say, when you hear no, pause. Separate the event of no from your identity. A no is not a verdict on your worth. It is just feedback. Feedback on alignment. So reflect. Think of your values, your purpose, your vision, the culture you have in your business or your organization. Does it align with this person you've approached who said no? Or actually might be the person who's approached you. Or it might be there's some detail you need to pay some attention to. And finally, rise. That means act before you feel fully ready. And I'm not saying just act irrationally, be deliberate. When I posted, I was not ready, but I was deliberate we were on a weekend away. I took all the things I needed for that video. Before I celebrated my birthday, I did that video. Collaboration builds confidence. Comparison weakens confidence. Contribution strengthens confidence. Collaboration is contribution. So instead of asking, am I good enough? Ask yourself, what value do I bring to the table? Or what perspective can I bring to this conversation? So, another temperature check. If you know someone in here or out there that you've been thinking of talking to either today or sometime in the near future, can you just put one in the chat for me? Just one person, one, not 5, just 1. Fantastic. Fantastic. Right. Listen up. The truth of the matter is, the only thing between you and that conversation is a decision. Not perfection, not certainty, and definitely not readiness. A decision. You are not waiting for confidence. Confidence is actually waiting for you to make a decision. So, to recap, I have shared with you why our internal posture makes a difference. You can now hear some of the sounds of the barriers, the subtle sounds. You have 3 internal shifts that, if you use them, would actually empower you to step into that conversation confidently. So, in closure, Opportunities for collaboration are already in this room and out there. Conversations are waiting. Possibilities are waiting. The real question is, who are you choosing to be in this room or out there? The person waiting to be approached, or the person who is confident to initiate? You're not waiting for confidence. Confidence is waiting for your decision. So make it. Right. If anything I've said here resonates at all with you and you would like to remain connected and hear more of what I have to say, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And it may be that you're currently navigating that new level of your growth or visibility. I offer free discovery conversations. It's a space to think, to reflect, and gain clarity. The link to booking that discovery call is on my LinkedIn profile, and I have already popped my LinkedIn profile details in the chat. Either way, I hope and pray that today is the start of one courageous conversation for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafiat. Let's give her a bit of a virtual round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Brilliant. So we have another speaker, but I just want to wrap up by saying that was a great talk. And put in the chat, has that made you feel just a little bit more empowered to step out? Because that's what we need to be doing. And today is all about that. It's about giving you a bit of a boost, a bit of a push. Brilliant. Thank you, Rafiat. Oh, you got some great comments there. Everybody loved it. So amazing, amazing, amazing. Right. Our second speaker is Beth Thomas, and she is a neuro-inclusion specialist. And Beth is going to be sharing her thoughts on collaborate with people who are neurodivergent to ensure successful collaborations. So, Beth, where are you? Hopefully you're there somewhere. Where's Beth?
I'm here.
Oh, she's there. She's there. Welcome, welcome, Beth. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday, everyone. Wow, I hope everyone's feeling as tingly and inspired as I certainly am. Rafiat, that was incredible. I'm absolutely honored to follow such a fantastic 10 minutes. So I would love to continue this level of engagement. And if you can, drop an exclamation mark in the chat if you've ever been in a situation where you just want to scream in frustration because it feels like no one is listening or understanding you. Yeah, how frustrating is that? I absolutely hear you. Me too. My name is Beth. I work with leadership, HR, and recruitment to reduce their people-related risk, strengthen management potential, and protect high-value talent for better profits and performance. So I'm absolutely honored to talk to you today about the power of inclusive collaboration. So collaboration, we've all heard of different frameworks to understand this. One of the most popular, perhaps, might be the 5 Ps. The 5 Ps of collaboration being purpose, people, products, place, and practice. But what happens when this is all structured in a way that inadvertently or perhaps even purposefully excludes certain types of minds and ways that we function best? You see, the power of collaboration lies in the strengths of its foundations. And if these aren't inclusive, then, well, we're trying to lift each other up with rubber bands, but expecting them to have the tensile strength of ratchet straps, aren't we? Yeah. So what I'd like to do for you guys today in the short time we've got together is to introduce you to a concept that can help strengthen the foundations of those collaborative endeavors to really support the brilliant confidence that you've just been given as well, so that you can go forth today and collaborate confidently and inclusively. So us professional speakers, we've always got to have an acronyms or, things that help you remember stuff. So I'm going to introduce you to my ABC trifecta today. And so we're going to start with A, which stands for acceptance. We must truly embrace and accept the vast variability and the beautiful diversity in how we function, process, think, feel, and exist in this world, to be able to fully validate and honor every person's lived experience, which is always equally valid and unique. And in order for us to be able to truly accept and embrace that, we need to be able to challenge our bias. And so I'm going to bring you to B in my ABC. So we must absolutely sit with any potential unconscious bias that we have. And I do hate to break it to you. It might sting a little bit, but we all have unconscious bias. And if we aren't aware of this, then we may not be aware of the impact that that is potentially having at our detriment when we're coming to collaborate and find purpose and positive outcomes in what we're trying to achieve. So if we can embrace and sit with the discomfort that that might bring in order for us to remove any of those barriers, then we will be able to absolutely challenge any of that bias, shifting our beliefs and our mindsets to be able to make space for true neuro-inclusive practice to be embedded is absolutely essential. And I'm going to bring you to summarize this into C, which is clarity. Collaboration requires psychological safety. Rafiat's already talked about some of the components of that today. And psychological safety requires trust. And you can't have trust without transparency. So clarity on communication, beliefs, barriers, expectations, and everything in between, quite frankly, is crucial for the sustained success of any collaborative venture. And to model clarity for you today, I'm going to give you 3 key considerations to bring this all together for you. So I'm going to encourage you to design for difference. Think about sensory profiles, processing differences, strengths alignments as you set your expectations and roles throughout your collaborative endeavor with others. I'm going to encourage you to give yourself grace to get things wrong, give yourself permission to be able to let go of any rigid binaries so that you can learn and grow and nurture each other as you go on that exciting adventure. You are the expert on yourself, as are other people. So give yourself grace and others space so that you know you are supporting each other as best you possibly can to show up as your best authentic self. And finally for today, don't expect uniformity. There's such an immense amount of pressure and responsibility on everyone's shoulders all of the time to always have to get things right. But I encourage you today to plan for fluctuations in things like energy, focus, capacity, and to proactively have support structures in place so that you aren't constantly operating from a firefighting, reactive standpoint. Now, I'm mindful of time, so I have actually taken the liberty of whipping up a free handout of key considerations for inclusive collaboration for you, which I will drop in the chat. And if any of this did connect with you, then you can also book a free 15 minutes for us to take those thought nuggets a bit further. And I would absolutely love to hear from you. And so I will leave you with one final point for today. When we create unshakably inclusive foundations with confidence and clarity, the potential of feminine power driving the collaboration becomes limitless. We elevate each other through doing so, and we can boldly reject any of those barriers that previously stood in the way so that we can pave the way for a new, better, brighter collaborative future that benefits all of us. And as Maya Angelou said, stepping onto a brand new path is difficult, but not more difficult than remaining in a situation which is not nurturing to the whole woman. My name is Beth. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Beth. That's amazing. And it was a really important topic to cover for this because we have to embrace everybody's different learning styles and be able to understand how to have those successful collaborations. So I thought it was a really important topic to mention, and you did a great talk. So thank you very much. And we will also send out your PDF as well. So if anyone's struggling to download it, but pop it in the chat. Okay, so next part of this event is to do some breakout rooms. Now, I'm going to pop the question for the breakout room into the chat. So the first question is, where could collaboration help you right now? Now, there'll be around 4 people in your room, and I am literally just going to read out randomly a room leader. You have 20 minutes in your room, so that's roughly about 4 to 5 minutes per person. So the room leaders, can you just jot some notes down and also just keep it to time and make sure everybody gets a chance to share where could collaboration help them right now? So room one, room leader is Zenat. Room two, Paula Smith. Room three, Sarah Stiffen. Room four, Jackie Winston. Room five, Sam Radford. Room six, Leslie Jones. Room seven, Fiona Scott. Room eight, Beth Thomas. And room nine, Rafiat. So I'm going to open all the rooms now. If you've maybe joined since I've sorted out the breakout rooms, I'll make sure you get added into one, so don't worry. Right, here we go. So the question is, where could collaboration help you right now? There you go. Alana, you're not in a room. I'm going to assign you to a room. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear the
Yeah.
internet story.
I'll
Thank
just
you.
assign you to a room, lovely. There you go. Over to you.
Marvellous. How long have I got, Debbie? Because you and
Got
anyone
about
who's
15 minutes. 10
right,
to
okay,
15 minutes.
that's brilliant. Okay, ladies and gent, lovely to see you all today, and well done to any woman running any business who's making a quid. You know, you should all be really proud because it's not easy. Okay, so I've run my own business for 18 years. I became a journalist in 1988, and I was a working journalist full-time within the media for 20 years. And I'm still a working journalist today, but because of time constraints, that's only in Swindon and Wiltshire. So, okay, collaboration is the theme today, and people forget that some super collaborators can be journalists. Okay, and there are journalists all around us, and the media is all around us, and it's very different today than when I started 18 years ago. So I want to just open your new sense and open your mind to that. But before I go into that, I want to talk about what collaboration really means. Collaboration is not doing stuff for free. Okay, and many women in business get caught in the trap of doing stuff for free, often out of guilt because they're starting out, but you do not value yourself, your expertise, or your paying clients by doing stuff for free. So with collaboration, it's about an equal relationship to do something of mutual benefit. Okay, and also it's around having an understanding of what the impacts and what the outcomes can look like. So it might be marketing assets, stuff for social media, sharing circles of contacts. It could be a press release about your collaboration, folks. That's what it could be. So I want you to start thinking when you collaborate is, what is that going to look like? What are the outcomes going to be? Who are going to be the right people? And are we all going to work together? Because if it's unbalanced, it's not going to work. Okay, and the reason I say that is when you think of journalists as collaborators, remember, money won't change hands quite often between you, but they will generally have something you don't. And that is access to a much bigger audience, the ability to make you visible, which could be online or in print, often with a backlink, maybe to your website or to your fundraising activity. And that will keep working for you when you're asleep. So they have, it doesn't matter if you meet a journalist, you think, gosh, she's a bit of a prat. The truth is that she will probably have access to audiences you couldn't hope to reach. So the benefit of that collaboration is huge, but it's indirect, intangible benefit. It's not something that's going to bring results straight away. So that is why collaboration with journalists are important. They can bring you visibility over time. Often journalists will be freelance, particularly with the national press. So if they get to know you in your areas of expertise and you were decent with them in the way you treated with them, guess what they'll do? They'll come back to you, especially if they're under pressure. So don't think you have to have tons of journalists that you know. A few is enough. So if you've got a question, you want to put it in the chat. I'm not quite sure how we're doing this, Debbie, then I'll try and have a look as we go. But I want you to think about journalists are your friends in business if you can supply them with the story and that story matches what they're looking for. So what does that actually mean in practice? Well, first of all, I want you to think of two things. I want you to think of where you physically are in the world. Okay, that's the first thing. So journalists that operate in your community, guess who they want to write about? People in your community. So if you're in Swindon or Wiltshire, then you can say businesswoman from Swindon, businesswoman from Wiltshire, or businesswoman from Hertfordshire or Watford. So I want you to think local to me, to my town, my village, my area, then regional or county-wide. Because immediately you are an acceptable angle to a story because you live in the area, which makes you relevant to journalists working in that area. That's the first thing. The second thing to think, and this is particularly important for the national press, is your age. Now, many women don't like talking about their age, okay? And they'll say, well, why is that relevant? Well, it is if you're a journalist writing for, say, a woman's magazine, and that woman will say something like, that journalist will say, well, I'm writing for a women's magazine where our demographic is the over 40s. But if you're not willing to say how old you are, how do they know if you don't fit that if you fit that demographic? And if you try to avoid it, all you're doing is you're ruining your relationship with somebody that you haven't even really started with. So if you see a request for a journalist who, I want to speak to a woman who's 60 this year, then you have to own to being 60 this year, not last year, not next year, but now, okay, to fit the brief. So you're really authenticity, personality, lived experience, you have to own it all if you want to talk to journalists and for them to be collaborators. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so you have to get on board with that. The other thing with journalists is you will help yourself with journalists if you don't just sell your stuff. We've already mentioned it in networking groups, haven't we, of how we all get the ick when somebody comes up to us and just bangs on about what they can sell to us. No, we don't do that with a journalist. We understand that we have business expertise. We have lived experience. We might sell certain products or services, but we're also a range of other things, and stories will come from all of those things, not just your business. And in fact, if you just focus on your business all the time, if I just focus on PR services, a journalist might be looking for that once or twice a year, and then I might be lucky enough to see it and I can offer some insight. But if I embrace all of who I am, other opportunities will come up. So that might be, I've got grey hair, I'm 60 this year, I wear glasses, I have short hair, I'm a bit overweight, I'm a mum, I'm a grandmother. Think of all the things that you are, and then I want you to think, right, which of those things do I never want to talk about? And you don't talk about them. Okay? So if some of you I know, because I'm talking to some of the lovely women in this group, some I already know and some I've just met today, if you've got neurodivergence and you're ADHD, you need to lean into that big time. Okay? Because all of those horrible experiences that happen to you, be careful of the law of libel, folks, and naming people, but all of those valid experiences to happen to you, write them down as headlines and think, God, that's a series of LinkedIn posts. I could tell a journalist about that. And then you become part of the narrative of your expertise, okay? And this week I was talking to another PR person who's a journalist based in South Wales, who told me something really quirky about yourself, and the media love quirky. So for instance, she's just been diagnosed with something called Christmas tree syndrome, and I am not kidding you, she's actually allergic to Christmas trees out of the blue. So I'm immediately thinking, that is such a good story, and I know a journalist who will leap on that. But are they going to leap on that in March? They're not going to leap on it in March. Are they going to leap on that in December? Timing is important. The ebb and flow of the year of when to tell your stories. So I'm going to give you a few tips, okay? And I want you to start to apply them to your business. Okay, here we go. Everybody in every business has stories that they can tell and send to their local media. So I want you to find 3 local media outlets. So that could be a local or a weekly newspaper in your area. Now, often PR consultants will say it's best to know a single journalist. That shows they don't know how the media works. Because how do you know what shift that journalist is on and what days they're working and when they're on holiday? You don't. So if you know a journalist directly, like I know Dan, who's a business editor at the Swindon Advertiser, I will email Dan and I will copy in the news desk, the general email as well, because then I know the story won't be missed. And then I want you to think, right, what over March or April can I write a story about relevant to me? So are you running an event? Have you just qualified in something? Are you celebrating your first year in business? Have you just started your business? So for those of you, I think I met Annie, who's in the group, who's only started a year ago. I would be doing story 1. I exist as a business owner and this is my background. And get that story, write that story out with a photograph, folks. Invest in professional photographs. The media want them. Okay, this is not you using a holiday snap, getting your mate to do it on the phone. No, the first thing you invest in is a set of professional images I call them narrative images for the media. So images that speak to who you are. Invest in that and send a nice headshot. I bet there's not one woman in this room, or man, Steph, who can send a story out this month. You might be running an event, you might be a keynote speaker at an event. Look at your diary and find one thing where you think that could be a story. And events can be online. They don't need these days to just be real person events. Now, I do this for myself, and you need to do it for yourself. So yeah, find your local newspaper. Look for any business journalists locally, on or offline, if you've got business publications. Most areas have them, and send it off there. And also, the third one I'm going to advise that you do is your BBC local radio. People forget this, or they get scared about it. No, you have as much validity to be considered as anybody else, and not everything will get through, but at least you're educating those journalists about what you can talk about. So go for your BBC and use the generic email address first. So in Wiltshire, it's wiltshire@bbc.co.uk, but in other areas it's different. Okay, so just choose those three. If you're interested in national press, the best place to find them, like it or not, is X. It's on X. #journo request. Use that as a search term. Click on latest or all, and you'll see what journalists are asking for. And 9 out of 10 of them will be irrelevant to you, and you might think they're irrelevant. You might even think they're stupid. That's not on you to think that, because there'll always be someone that fits. You're looking for the ones that fit you. And then you do exactly what the journalist is asking you to. So if they say, send me a DM here, you don't email them. You send them a DM here. If they say, email me, email is in my, then email them and refer to the message. What I do for clients is not rocket science. I'm just telling you, this is what I do. Okay. With local TV, for some of you may have dreams of being on TV, it has to be visual, okay? And it has to be relevant. TV coverage is much harder to get, and it is more valuable. Some of you will have community TV stations in your areas though. We don't have it in Wiltshire, but you might have it in your areas, or community radio stations. Don't forget those. It's easier to get coverage with those, and that's good for practice. Okay, I'm conscious of time. The other thing I want to talk to you about is to understand that the media is really different now. When I started, you had radio, TV, newspapers, magazines, and those all still exist and they're still valid. But these days we have things called YouTubers, podcasters, you can be a guest blogger. So the other thing I would say, if you want more visibility and all this media stuff I'm talking about is quite nerve-wracking for you, why don't you start finding the media in the room you are in right now? Okay, because I promise you, the room you are in right now has opportunities for all of you. Okay, so it's as simple as going to a networking group and saying, does anyone have a podcast? Okay, does anyone have a podcast, and are they looking for guests? Okay, I mean, I bet there are several of us here, well, I know there are, at least two, me and Debbie, who have podcasts, but just say, I'm interested in being on a podcast, could I be considered? And don't get offended if they say no. It's their podcast, they decide. It's not you who decides as the guest. If you run a podcast, you decide. Now mine, I kept it generic, PR not BS it's called, because frankly I'm nosy and I want to know about people. So yeah, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about marketing, but there's no set answers to that. The rest of the time I'm going to be asking about you. And the reason for that, because it's a tenet of all business, people buy from people. They don't buy unless your brand is huge and millions of pounds sit behind it, like Apple, or I don't know, Heinz Beans or DFS or something like that. In our world, people buy from people, and they want to know what the points of commonality are between you, and journalists really help with that. So ask for your podcast. Ask if anyone's looking for guest bloggers on their website, where you can dovetail. You might be given a brief of what you need to provide. Follow the brief. Because if someone's more established in business than you, they're more of a character. They've got bigger audiences. Okay, so the media starts in the room you're in. And also remember that if you're on social media sharing your expertise, you too are part of the media. Whether you like it or not, you are. And even if you want guest posts for your newsletters to add a variety of content or to show people that you're connected with lots of interesting people, that's a really good thing to do. So the media isn't out there as a group of people that are removed from you. And finally, I'm going to give you some extra tips around things you might not expect that will put you on the media. So for instance, every year I talk about the Apprentice series because it's one of my guilty pleasures, and I get very strong opinions of people who think it's awful, people who think it's fun, and I don't care what anybody else thinks because I enjoy watching it. I enjoy writing about it, and in almost every series I'll be on BBC Wiltshire Radio talking about The Apprentice. Okay, you could apply the same to Dragon's Den. You could apply the same to TV shows like The Traitors, because often these shows, particularly reality TV, even these artificial constructs, bring up themes that speak to your expertise. So that could be around networking, personal relationships, lifestyles, time management, trauma, loads of different things. So this is called, we call this a story hook, folks, and all of us have story hooks. If you remember, I went back and I said, right, okay, think about what's in your diary. If you've got nothing, think about what's a story hook. Is there something on TV or a film that I can express a view about? Is there an awareness day this month that I can talk about? I think I've shared loads with you. I've probably gone over my time. Debbie's getting itchy feet. So lovely to talk.
You were bang on. You were bang on. So thank you
Marvellous.
so much. You have a Facebook group, don't you, for people interested in PR?
Yes, I
So
do.
maybe pop the details into the chat box.
Yeah, I'll do
When
that
I
now.
send the follow-up email, I will be sending Fiona's details and everybody that's been involved with the event today. So thank you very much. You've shared loads and loads of value there, and I knew you would. So thank you very much. Brilliant. I'm going to stop the recording now. Here we go.